How's it going? In this video, I'm going to be sharpening this Fallkniven VG10 white whale kitchen knife through varying progressions of stones, the sharpener being a TS Prof Pioneer. I'm going to show you progression by progression, as in as I move up the grades of stone, I'm going to show you how it looks under the microscope and how the edge is gradually improving. So the first edge, this was very badly damaged edge. It was a kitchen knife that's been probably a year between sharpenings perhaps. And yeah, significantly worn away, even to the naked eye, but especially when you look at it under a microscope. It's 50 times magnification, and I think I'll zoom in it to the max that I can, which I think is about 250 at some point, and show you sort of the real kind of voids and how lumpy really a worn out edge does begin to look. VG10's a steel that tends to chip rather than to roll. That being said, this one's got kind of a combination of both happening on it. And yeah, we're going to go up through the progression of stones, 150, 220, 400, 600, 1000 diamond type abrasive stones, and show you how a knife is, I guess, restored to a nice, very sharp edge. So hopefully it's of interest to you. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so we've got a magnifying glass here. We're gonna try and steer it around. It's kind of hard with the light being in a void, but as you can see, a lot of that real untidiness is gone already. That first stage of the sharpening really is the part that does the most actual physical removal and shaping again of the edge. This is all burr here, so these little bits of steel, oh look at my fingertip there. See how my fingertip can sort of just push them around? That's such a weird thing to see. Ugh. But yeah, all those little chunks of steel on the edge, they're not fixed, they're just like little tiny bits of burr forming, and they've been sort of ground off mostly by the sharpening process. See, oh, little crystals of burr there. That's my giant fingertip there. Wow, all right, that's kind of cool to see. Anyway, so we're looking at an edge that is starting to become, even this, all that stuff there, that's just burring, see? All that stuff there. Yeah, so very much more of a uniform edge again, so the most of the work's already been done, like in terms of shaping the edge, by that first stone. Pretty cool. Let's get back, do some more sharpening. All right, so we'll clamp my machine back down again, and we're going to move up to the next grit of stone, which is going to be a 220, and that's probably not a huge amount to move up. Probably won't spend too much time on the 220, but we'll have a look at it, and we'll do a couple of passes, start neatening up those scratch patterns, I guess, and then we'll go and have another look at it after 220. So I'm not sure how we're going to look in terms of change with this particular increment increase. 150 to 220 is probably not a huge amount. Now let's have a bit of a look at, oh yeah, even still, that's quite a bit tidier, even now on that very edge. Very nice. A lot of that burr's already sort of neatening up at least, or coming off. Still like a bit of a, that would have been probably a rusted out spot at the start maybe, and now it's just been stripped back to just being a bit of a cavernous void. I may not catch that, that may not go all the way, but I guess we're mainly just looking at the absolute edge, aren't we? In terms of what's actually going to be cutting. So thinnest of little burr fragments on a lot of this now, but you can see it's basically, for all intents and purposes, a pretty much dead straight line now, if you don't consider the burr. So the hard work has been done of removing the steel enough to make a little bit of a rough spot there. Perhaps that might come out in future sharpenings, like in future progressions, but largely the edge has been sort of sufficiently V'd out again. Love this burr, it's just so cool. Very cool. All right, let's keep looking. Let's keep sharpening, move up to 400. Let's move up to 400 and see if that starts to really start to beautify that edge. Usually about 600 is when an edge starts to look really nice. So 400 is still very much a removal grind for me, especially on VG10. It's going to still do a fair bit of actual sharpening rather than just polishing. Alrighty, so 400, probably about 60% polishing, 40% stock removal, the intention of that grit. Let's see how it's looking here. So it's definitely put a bit more of a burr on it. Definitely still taking stock off and pushing it back to a burr, which is totally fine. Just look at that really dead straight edge though, isn't it? It's good, huh? Whoops, better actually bloody record it so I can show you all. Very nice and straight. Still got that little cavern, that void there I showed you before. It is shrunk a little bit, but I'll probably just leave that, to be honest. I'm not too bothered. But very nice and straight. Some degree of burring still. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much, you could strop this and that would be a really sharp edge right now. But of course, we are edge nerds here, edge lords here. So we're going to go the full progression and then a strop. So let's move up to the 600. Righto, 600. Moving on. So this is definitely, it's 220, don't that. All right, 600. 600. So 600 is definitely about, you know, 80% polishing, maybe still a little bit of stock removal going on, but really you've done most of your stock removal by this point, and this is where you're starting to just really hone and beautify and, you know, really dial in your edge. So let's spend some time on 600. I usually spend a bit of time on this grit and then a little bit more on the next level up. But yeah, this is where a lot of, I feel, the real scratch reduction is done at 600, just by perception anyway. Alrighty, so that's 600 grit. As I said, spend a bit more time on that one. It's definitely where you start to really get your polish coming out. Let's see how it looks under the scope. Okay. Not sure if that's particularly more impressive looking or not. Lots of bearing going on still, so that's a bit nicer down this end. Oh yeah. There's that tiny little black spot, again, sort of still being worn away a little bit, even a little bit of a void in the steel maybe. Don't know, just being sharpened away just a little bit. It's hard to get the light even on the edge, but maybe back a little way. Yeah, so this is very, very neat now. Got quite, you know, minimal bearing down this end. I will go back towards the other end where there's some substantial bearing. There's some bearing there. But yeah, down here, naked eye, I could see, where was it? Maybe not. Maybe it came off on the last few passes. Could well have done. Yeah, so that's quite nice down that end. There was a fair bit of bearing hanging around, but yeah, that's all going. Looking pretty good. It's going to be night and day when I show. I can't remember how bad it looked at the start, but it's going to be pretty much night and day between those two, I'm sure of it. I'll try and do a zoom, Sometimes a zoom's tricky. We'll just see how it looks. See how far I can zoom in. This microscope's not the most advanced piece of machinery, but Okay, so that's a real zoom right up on the edge there. Yep. Pretty nice looking. Still definitely scratch pattern, 600 grit. You're never gonna, like, really you need to start moving up into the thousandths and stuff to have it shiny at this level of scope. This would be probably at about 300 times right now, but you can certainly see that it's quite straight and neat. Kind of cool little light capturing rainbow effect almost, the refraction. There we go. Alrighty, let's go 1000 and really start neatening it up. So moving to the 1000, the very final in this series. I don't have anything higher in these Venev stones on my TS Prof. Now to the finger, this almost just feels like a smooth piece of steel. Obviously there's some minor resistance to it, but it's definitely just 100% of it is just for polishing, which of course is still doing stock removal, absolutely, like, but on just such a tiny scale that it's really not doing much constructive, you know, shaping or anything like that anymore. So let's do a bit of this and we'll see how it looks. Last progression of stone at least. Yeah, set this one to record. And yeah, this should be a, you know, this is about as shiny as it gets from just the stones. And moving there, okay, so this is still super high magnify, right? Okay, so that's under really extreme, like probably 300 times. Oh, so you need a very good hand-eye motor skills. Alrighty, so that's 1000 grit under, yeah, pretty high magnification. Just, I guess, to show you how flat it is. I use some tiny bits of burring and whatnot still going on there, but generally speaking, back into, so that's a proper burr. That's a good example of a proper burr. That little bit of, like, on your screen, it's probably like a little thin silver line, like almost a ribbony looking thing. It's just a fragment of one, and that'll come off no worries with stropping, which is what we'll do next. That's that pit that I was showing, so that ended up did coming out entirely, I believe. Yeah, that's about where it was. Let's zoom out to 50 times, because that's where it's a bit more, I don't know. I prefer the look of the 50. Let's have a look there. So that's sort of what we're going for. That's how you really kind of, there we go. All right. So that's this is the edge under 50 times magnification. So it's just showing you a bit more how it looks. So the bit that's obviously, there's three colors you can see there, right? So you've got basically right at right on the edge, the first kind of what's taking up, like, I guess the middle band of the screen right now is the V edge that I've just put on the knife. Behind that is probably remnants of the old edge, a bit of Sharpie that's still on there. I use the Sharpie to measure, and then behind that is sort of the rest of the VG10 that's poking out from under the lamination layer. And then when I move back a little bit more, that's pretty much the lamination line there. So the steel on the right-hand side of the screen is like the 420J steel that clads the rest of the lamination, like the line. You can sort of see it under the naked eye as well. So then you've got the rest of the VG10, the workable VG10 steel, so still heaps of life left on the blade. Then a bit of Sharpie and perhaps a bit of old edge, and then my new 15-ish degree edge there. So that's how it looks. And, you know, as you see, it's still not like a mirror shiny to the microscope, but to the eye, it is quite mirror shiny and quite nice looking. A bit of rust there persisting, mixed in with some Sharpie there. Let's go and take off the burr and have another last look at it as a completed edge. Alrighty, can take it out of my sharpener now. Just being careful with my edge, and I do I do keep a fairly steady hand when I'm sharpening. I'm not too klutzy, but yeah, you have to be a little bit careful when you've got a knife blade facing you. There we go. Let's take it over to the, we'll use the auto strop, the Tormex auto strop to do this nice and quick. I reckon it's got a good bit of compound still inside of it, and we'll get a nice strop going on that there. All right, then I usually just wipe it down, get all that compound and scrap metal off. I'll do a clean of it before I actually use it against food. But this should be a super sharp edge right now, and then we'll go and see how it looks under the microscope. Yeah, crazy sharp, like no, you can't even feel the paper really, just passes through perfectly. So all those hiccups, chips, basically gone across the entire edge of the knife. Yeah, nothing sticks at all. So really nice sharp kitchen knife once again. Will be an absolute dream to use against food, but let's go next door and hook it up to the camera again and see how it looks under a high level of magnification. Alrighty, go on there. Right. And there we go. Alrighty, so that's a pretty nice looking, very neat edge. And to juxtapose that against how it started, pretty nice. You see, we shouldn't be seeing much burring. Maybe that slight burring there still just causing that slight wave, maybe. I don't know. That's pretty darn sharp. Pretty neat, nice flat straight line. Some scratch pattern persists there. It's funny, it's hard to be completely consistent. That's that weird little void that I've sort of kept track of. Probably just fluff from the strop. There we go. A little bit of rust, possibly even a little bit of notebook paper riding along that edge too, but there we go. All right, and as of course, the fancier you go and the higher you go with your stones, there probably is a point where you can almost see a mirror on this. And I don't know, but I don't quite have that level of technology available to me right there and then. If I could find the exact angle, I could pop it on my KME and use the diamond lapping plates to get higher than that, but not today, not this time anyway. Maybe next time. Hope you've enjoyed, hope you found this of interest, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.